Ever feel like life just throws you into the deep end without any kind of life raft of understanding?
Yeah, it happens.
Well, today we're diving into one person's pretty intense 15-year journey. It's all about unexpected life changes and the profound self-discoveries that came out of it.
We're looking at key insights from Kiersey Macon's personal reflection. It's called What Have I Learned from Self-Development?
Right.
And in it, she really unpacks these major life shifts and the wisdom she gained.
So our goal here, our mission for you, the learner, is to pull out the most crucial aha moments from Kiersey's story.
Kind of a shortcut, maybe.
Exactly. A shortcut to understanding how these unexpected challenges can actually become catalysts for some serious personal growth.
In a more conscious way of being, really.
Yeah. And as you listen, maybe notice if any of this sparks reflections on similar things in your own life, contexts where you face the unexpected.
Okay, so Kiersey's story kicks off around November 2008. She was 33, newly married, which was something she hadn't really planned on. And she was just starting a new career in recruitment. That was after a shift from beauty and fashion, and she'd gotten her business degree a couple of years before.
Right, so setting the stage, and then boom, the unexpected hits.
Yeah, the U.S. financial crisis.
Big one.
Huge. And the ripples, they spread everywhere. Her new field recruitment in her hometown, it got hit hard.
So suddenly, the path she thought she was on, it's facing major obstacles, job losses everywhere.
Exactly. So I guess the first insight there is about how fragile that external security can be.
And the need to build up some inner resilience, right, for when things go sideways.
Precisely. And this led her to a really pivotal decision in 2010.
Okay.
Well, seeing the opportunities dry up, Kiersey decided to move to Helsinki. Better career prospects there.
Makes sense.
But it was a big step, and it was made tougher because her husband was reluctant. He had commitments, as a national team athlete, didn't want to relocate.
Okay, so let's unpack this Helsinki move. She went alone.
She did, and she calls it the first of many hard decisions made without partner support.
Which, as she notes, is something a lot of women face, right? When their path kind of diverges from their partners.
Absolutely. And this wasn't just like moving house. It was a total life reset.
How so?
New city, new career field organization consulting, which is quite a leap from recruitment.
Definitely.
New people, new lifestyle, and, interestingly, a significant downsizing in their standard of living.
Downsizing?
Yeah, they sold their house, what she calls their Western dream house, for a rented apartment.
Wow. So radical external shifts. What's the key takeaway from that part?
Well, what's really fascinating is the contrast. All this external downsizing, but internally. Kiersey talks about her excitement.
Excitement, despite losing the house and all that.
Yeah, excitement about the new possibilities. And she mentions a lack of strong attachment to possessions.
Okay, so that suggests maybe our well-being isn't just tied to external stuff.
Exactly. It points to internal factors like adaptability, openness to change, being more important than just, comfort or security.
And it wasn't just the external world shifting, was it? She talks about an inner shift, too.
Right. Around the same time, she felt this profound shift of consciousness. Didn't get it at first, but knew it was psychological, deep.
A profound shift of consciousness. What might that actually feel like day to day? Can you elaborate?
Well, think of it maybe as a fundamental change in how she saw herself, saw the world.
Like a lens changing?
Sort of. Perhaps a much sharper awareness of her inner thoughts, her feelings. Maybe questioning beliefs she'd held for ages.
Okay.
Or just this sense that her inner world wasn't really lining up with her outer life anymore.
And this inner change happened alongside her new job in organization consulting.
Yes, and she notes how the methods and frameworks in that field really influenced her own growth. It was a sudden pivot, from recruitment's focus to digging into these more humanistic, psychological issues.
So this inner curiosity really took hold. She started studying, HR, psychology.
Human resources, psychology, self-development, basically anything to try and understand what was happening inside her.
Actively trying to map this new inner territory.
Exactly. And if we look at the bigger picture, this whole period of massive change inside and out had huge life consequences.
Like what?
Well, she mentions a divorce and facing accusations, shame, selfishness for choosing her own path.
Oof.
Yeah. And she sees it as a pattern often thrown at women who, prioritize their own way over maybe collective expectations.
That raises a big question, doesn't it? How societal norms can sometimes, punish people, especially women, for focusing on personal growth.
It really does. And she says it took a decade. A whole decade to really grasp this new contextual awareness.
Contextual awareness, meaning?
Like a deeper understanding of how her inner experience and outer reality were connected, intertwined. And to start living in a way that felt intuitively right, even though it was painful sometimes, seeing things others didn't quite see yet.
A decade. What strikes you about that length of time?
Just the commitment, the inner work needed for that kind of understanding to really bloom from tough times.
It wasn't a quick fix.
Not at all, a gradual unfolding. And she calls this painful time a gift hidden in the pain and suffering.
A gift?
Yeah, underlining that idea that real growth often comes from adversity. But it requires, in her words, persistence, patience, and a real passion for understanding your own inner world.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting for me. She talks about receiving a karmic invitation back then.
Didn't realize it at the time, though.
Right, and she connects this to being developmentally ready for such a big shift. What exactly is a karmic invitation here?
Well, think it less like fate, maybe, and more like a significant life event or circumstance that offers a crucial chance for growth.
An opportunity.
Yeah, an opportunity that aligns with deeper, maybe soul-level needs for learning and evolution. Kiersey suggests the challenges weren't random, but catalysts her inner self was ready for.
Okay. And she brings in astrology here. Pluto.
She does. Points to Pluto moving into Capricorn back in November 2008. Astrologically, that's a big transit, known for breaking down old structures.
How long does that last?
About 17 years. She bluntly calls it hell.
Wow, 17 years.
Yeah. And Pluto, astrologically, represents the soul, evolution, often through confronting the shadow, the hidden unconscious stuff.
So this long cycle really highlights how deep transformation triggered by life events isn't usually quick or easy.
Definitely not. And for QC, this sparked an immediate curiosity about that shadow stuff.
For the unconscious parts of ourselves.
Right, and the collective unconscious, this hidden reality she felt she'd always sensed was there.
And she coined a phrase for this pull.
The calling of the spirit. That's what she called this powerful pull towards what felt like liberation from her whole self.
Liberation.
And crucially, she insists her inner pain was tied to that desire for liberation, not just, unhappiness.
But she faced pushback, mockery even.
Apparently so, from some colleagues, coaches, perhaps people who valued more conventional goals, external success, over this deep inner journey.
Why do you think that happens, that kind of reaction?
Well, I think there's often a societal bias, isn't there, towards the tangible, the external achievement.
Sure.
So this focus on a calling of the spirit, this inner liberation, it might seem abstract, maybe even self-indulgent to people with a more pragmatic view.
And she explored this through different lenses too, right? Like Myers-Briggs, human design.
Yeah, Jungian typology, MBTI, human design, gene keys, different ways to understand personality and potential. But she found vertical development the most helpful framework for her.
Okay.
And she links her awareness of these developmental patterns, evolutionary ones, childhood ones, to her Capricorn nature.
Interesting. But she also notes her initial success didn't last very long. Why was that?
She identifies as a soul born in a time of transitions, feeling like she inherently experienced inner conflicts that were mirrored outside due to conditioning.
Makes you think about how our personal timing interacts with bigger societal shifts, doesn't it?
It really does. Now, shifting slightly, Kiersey contrasts her own start. Feeling like she had almost no identity as a teen, see mostly her wounded aspects.
Compared to others.
Compared to others who seem to navigate life more, maybe superficially. So her evolution has been about building this functional, conscious identity.
One she felt wasn't always seen by others.
Right. Visible only to a few, she felt. And this feeling of being misunderstood, it actually fueled her curiosity.
That's fascinating. And she mentions her human design profile, an open identity center.
Yes, leading to that lifelong question, who am I? Which fits perfectly with her feeling of observing life from beneath the surface.
So understanding our own nature, maybe through systems like human design, could help that self-discovery journey.
Absolutely. It can offer a map, help you navigate with more self-awareness, maybe more self-acceptance. For Kiersey, knowing about the Open Identity Center might have helped her make peace with that constant quest for self-definition.
And this feeling of being shadowed. She found explanations in psychological concepts.
Yeah, things like the second-order pattern, the subject-object relationship, Roman Anger's model of the witness, complex ideas, but they essentially point to being able to observe your own thoughts and feelings.
It's like stepping back.
Exactly. Observing from a more detached perspective, which leads to greater self-understanding.
What strikes me as powerful is her emphasis on trusting her own inner wisdom for over a decade before finding external validation.
Yes. She really highlights how hard it is to put these deep personal experiences into words, and the courage it takes to be a beginner again and again in understanding yourself.
It speaks volumes about internal validation, doesn't it?
Hugely. She mentions experiences moving through like 3 paradigms before they're fully realized.
3 paradigms.
Yeah, like stages of understanding, which underlines why trusting your own witnessed experience is so key. Not just deferring to experts, but staying open too.
It's a balance, inner knowing and external
A
learning.
very delicate balance.
Okay, so bringing this towards the present. Here she sees that karmic invitation now as a conscious gift because of the lessons learned.
Right, and she feels these lessons might be relevant for people now, especially with Pluto shifting into Aquarius, another big collective transit,
And she defines her lifetime soul intention.
as repeatedly uniting the interior and exterior, leading to what she calls repeatable evolution.
Repeatable evolution. Interesting phrase. She also mentions an astrological configuration, Saturn opposing her sun.
Yeah, Saturn in her 11th house, Aquarius, opposing her sun in the 5th, Leo. She sees that as representing a core internal conflict, a tension between, say, societal roles and her individual creative expression.
A tension she now embraces.
Seems so. It represents a lifelong theme of balancing her personal desires with her role in the wider community, simplifying it a bit, of course.
And she felt Aquarius became her shadow.
And her evolution, guided by her sun through Virgo, spanned that whole period from her Saturn return, a key life passage around age 28-30, to feeling liberated from this opposition.
So she uses astrology as a language for these inner processes.
Yes, for her, it's a symbolic language to understand deeper psychological, even spiritual dynamics. She also identifies as a wounded healer.
The archetype of someone who helps others through things they've overcome themselves.
Exactly. It fits her journey through significant difficulties, but she also credits her sun in the 5th house for bringing creativity, joy, playfulness into it all.
So a deep understanding of inner conflicts, polarities.
Definitely. She reflects on feeling trauma early on, related to her ego development, initially blaming her upbringing traditional patriarchal.
But resolving those issues wasn't the whole story.
No. She realized the core pattern ran deeper. What was crucial was individually owning her relationship with her superego, her inner critic, and her ego.
And transcending that.
Yes, to find a sense of inner power without squashing her authentic self, a process she also links to Saturn's influence.
So true freedom isn't just about understanding external stuff, but mastering that internal landscape.
Precisely. Mastering the inner critic, the sense of self.
And she mentions her lifelong work with polarities, her Capricorn ability to build, dissolve, rebuild structures.
Yeah, step by step. Learning to appreciate incompleteness, the ongoing nature of learning process awareness, she calls it.
How does that process awareness show up day to day?
I think it's about valuing the journey, not just the destination. Being present with each stage, knowing setbacks happen, embracing development as ongoing, not seeking some fixed perfection.
And vulnerability is key.
Vital, she stresses, for growth everywhere. And this inner imaginary work with shadows. That's what leads to real creation in the outer world, through integrating the ego.
Because of her structural awareness, she says you can't skip steps.
Right. And trusting your own experience is number one. Plus, watching yourself and others with compassion, not judgment.
Why is non-judgmental observation so important?
Well, judgment just creates separation, right?
Yeah.
Stops real understanding. Compassion lets us see patterns clearly, with less emotion getting in the way. It fosters growth.
And she reframes structures, not as negative, but as invitations to evolve.
Exactly. Invitations to understand their meaning. And this perspective helped her become good at dissolving boundaries, moving into boundlessness, time into timelessness. Capricorn is the specialist of time-space, she says.
She mentions other planets too, Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, Chiron in her transformation.
Saying she never had to look for what to change because she knew it internally.
But that knowing only came through the journey itself.
Right, which underscores that true self-knowledge is really experiential. You have to live it.
Which brings us to a really crucial point she makes about external experts.
Ah, yes, the pitfalls.
She cautions against blindly paying for validation from teachers.
Because every teacher has their own patterns, right?
Yeah.
And they might project them onto you, even unintentionally.
So what does she suggest instead?
Question disagreements. Use them. To understand better, maybe prove the teacher wrong, or realize your own error. But the key is being present with your inner feelings inquiring deeply first.
And this applies even to people who seem very aware, meta-aware.
Yeah, she warns that overconfidence can be a trap there too. Trust what's arising in your awareness, even over famous teachers focused on status.
And ultimately, your current reality, however hard.
That's the only relevant learning ground for your growth. That's where the work happens.
She even reframes the inner critic, that Capricorn trait, as the starting point.
Right, where its voice eventually becomes your own, leading to realizing your inherent wholeness, transforming criticism into awareness.
So, as awareness grows, it becomes embodied through creating, engaging with life's structures.
Exactly. She calls it being the path that experiences itself, constantly evolving towards new understanding,
And the past and future.
always transcended and included in the present moment. It's all here now.
Integrating opposites means developing different parts of ourselves, understanding complexity, uniting them.
Yes, for wholeness, conscious unity. But she repeats this karmic initiation stuff. It takes time. And warrior skills.
Which are.
Perseverance, patience, presence, passion, and practice. The 5 Ps, basically.
But the tricky part is you don't always know what skill you'll need in the moment.
Exactly. And she points out how we humans tend to tell ourselves stories, self-deceptive ones sometimes.
And patterns repeat.
Oh, yeah. So she urges us to re-examine beliefs that we've fixed certain problems. Maybe look again.
And she shares how the word struggle changed meaning for her.
Yeah, it used to be this difficult shadow thing. Now it signals attention, awareness, an opportunity for curiosity, for meaningful change.
That's a really powerful reframe.
It is. She also explains that some common parts of this path aren't really understood at the start. The timing varies for everyone.
Like what?
Like the dissension from the dreaming mind.
The dreaming mind.
That place full of projections, assumptions, illusions, descending from that into just ordinary life.
Where things might look the same on the outside?
Exactly. But internally, profound shifts have happened. Your orientation to that ordinariness becomes purer. It feels normal, but also new.
But the dissolving continues.
Oh, yes. Lingering memories can still pull you in if you let them. And she touches on consciously choosing to play social games, but with awareness.
Okay.
In her reflection, she then shifts from social construction talk to letting go of illusions, this dreaming mind, as a personal, virtual reality. Promises to return to it.
So she wraps up with some key learnings from this whole timeless path, especially for people feeling like they're in that struggle reality.
Yeah, quite a list. First, you are the student, you are the path, and everything is always changing.
So cultivate reflective awareness, witnessing.
Right. Towards wholeness, connections, patterns, processes. It's experiencing and transcending with conscious understanding alongside.
Okay, second key learning.
Polarity work. Inner-outer conflicts. They're key to spotting projections, illusions, the desire to differentiate. Creative inner conflict, archetypes. They help you move towards unity.
Makes sense. Third.
Trust. It evolves. Starts broad self, others, life, emergence, presence, awareness. Trusting yourself doesn't mean ditching others. Wholeness changes the need for trust.
Interesting. Fourth.
Personality, soul purpose, they're instruments. Understand their hidden patterns to own your path with humility. You are the only truly knowing awareness. The source is within you.
So sixth. Don't just look outside for answers.
Exactly. External help is good initially, but eventually you got to stand up for your own truth, your own unfolding.
Yeah.
Trust nothingness, the journey from unawareness.
Dare to touch the spirit within experiences. Shadow work, uncertainty.
Yes, that's key. Seventh, spirit's transformations don't follow timelines, often unexpected, linked to collective shifts.
So time-based processes might help guide, but personal growth is timeless.
Fundamentally, yes. Real self-discovery needs time, peace. Be cautious of purely time-driven approaches for deep stuff.
Eighth point.
Be aware of coaches selling quick fixes. Real guidance is about evolution, the soul's unfolding, not just external goals.
Astrology can be a map.
A holistic map of the collective unconscious, yeah. But studying maps is secondary to looking at your own awareness, redefining your own structures.
And the final key learning, number 9.
Eventually, you find this stable, unchanging ground of being inside, unaffected by shifting experiences.
Liberation.
Yes, and trusting your own learning process. Meditation in ordinary life, through the dreaming mind. Her final words, dare to trust.
Wow. Dare to trust.
So for you, the learner, Kiersey's really deep dive into her own unexpected path shows something powerful, doesn't it?
Yeah, that even the really tough times, the challenging stuff, can be profound teachers.
Leading to a deeper understanding of ourselves and maybe those underlying patterns in life.
We really hope that by unpacking these key learnings, from navigating sudden change and inner shifts to understanding karmic invitations, the timeless path stuff.
That you've gained some valuable insights you can apply to your own journey.
So here's a final thought to mull over, building on Kiersey's emphasis on trusting your own awareness over external authorities.
What inner knowing, what gut feeling perhaps might you be currently overlooking in your own life's journey right now?
Something to think about. This has been a deep dive into one listener's source material. If you have a stack of your own notes, articles, anything you're curious to unpack,
Let us know. We're always ready for the next exploration.